Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome back. Your eyes and ears are not deceiving you. We are actually here. We did miss you last week. No AWS server failures tonight. We are live and direct for the Race Anywhere Porsche Cup here, and we are at Red Bull Ring making a slightly different change because obviously having to change things about with that missed week last week. But back again is myself, Dave Christie, and again is David Wrestle. David, welcome back. Firstly, how are you?
Very well, mate. Looking forward to getting stuck back into it. I missed you last week. It was very quiet on a Tuesday evening.
I swear, even though we had like the entire night let to ourselves, I'm sitting there like, okay, so what do I do now? Because there was like no notice of it. But we're back. We've got a brand new season of iRacing, so lots of little changes here and there, and the meta changes very slightly. But Red Bull Ring. This is a huge track to turn our attention to for round 3 of 10 here, David. So many stories last time out at Sebring, which feels like a lifetime ago. Obviously, Vince Peters in the pro class taking both of the wins over the two race sprint format. Pro-Am went the way of Daniel Sedgley in the second race, and then it was Max Furtwängler who took the Pro-Am in the first race, and then down to Am it was Jason Dilworth who took the first race, and then Ryan Hamilton in that second race. So a lot of scores to settle, but still early in the championship and still quite close. I think we've went and lost David. If he's still there, I think he's maybe accidentally fallen. Actually, wait, I'm going to go and check AWS in case that's taking him down again as well. He is there, right, David?
Welcome back. Still here.
Welcome back, buddy. Right, so I was saying, the championship still very, very close indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, you consider the fact that in the pro class, the top 12 are split by 110 points, which when you've got 60 points or 40, 60 points minimum per round going in, 100 points for the winner of the endurance round, that gives, well, you're on Roy, who's 12th at the moment. If he gets a good win, if he gets a win tonight, he shifts himself right into contention. So yeah, all to play for. And it's always made them more interesting by those reverse orders, isn't it? Top 15 of each respective championship get flipped. The other guys will continue where they left off from the championship before. All makes out, as we saw last week, a couple of weeks ago rather, at Sebring, makes up for some really, really impressive and, should we say, action-packed racing, should we say?
Yes, exactly. So much so that the first thing I'm going to have to do, David, is say a huge thank you, as always, to our broadcast director, Mike Yao, in advance of the abuse that he's going to get for inadvertently missing at least 5 of the battles that are going to be going on tonight. Such is the level of action that we get here. We've got like about 40 cars split by less than 0.2 of a second, so we will miss something. I'm just going to put that out there right now. We will do our very best to bring as much as we can, but we do have to say a huge thank you to our commercial partners over at Race Anywhere, raceanywhere.co.uk, over at Sim3D, sim-3d.co.uk, World Series Leagues, of course, that is us, at worldseriesleagues.co.uk, and Go For The Gap, etsy.me, 3CCILPF, that is Go For The Gap. So yeah, a huge thank you to our commercial partners for making nights like this happen. 5 seconds left to go in free practice. Not a really lot to look at, but I'm also seeing a lack of Vince Peters at the top of the times there.
Yeah, absolutely. Lauren Benzo sitting at the top of the moment. Francois Aldrini, someone who you and I both picked him out, which you see, I'm not sure who that is there, the 98 car, Bastian Matler, going for an interesting escapade up to the top of the hill, but yeah, not a name we're seeing at the top. But I mean, look, we said that at the back end at the start of the 2 races at Sebring a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? He was 15th on the grid, and then all of a sudden, within a couple of laps, he was up to P3. So I wouldn't rule him out just yet. Yep.
So unlike other broadcasts that we do, the great thing is we're straight into the action. No qualifying. Here is how the grid lines up. Benjamin Blanche on pole position alongside Johan Royer, Laurent Benzo on row 2 alongside Arias Eumantis, Thomas Gillian in 7th place alongside Dan Kell for Rocket Sim Sport, row 3. Row 4 is Bastian Maitler alongside Francois Aldrini, then is Budivin Kuster and Nick Maidson on row 5. Vince Peters at the back of row 6 is in 11th place, and then we move on to the Pro-Ams. Chris Dane and Max Furtwängler on row 1, Stuart Reynolds and Albin Kjellberg on row 2, Igor Kos Ross and Harry Wills in row 3, Steve Martin, Sveinung Madsen in row 4. Row 5 is Cody Pride and Jem Fierro, who did post his Twitch stream up earlier on, so we'll hopefully get a little bit of his Twitch action on there. Over to the AMs then, and it should be Levi Johnson. It is on the front of that, ahead of Dean Thames. Row 3 is row 2, Herbert O'Shaughnessy alongside Thomas Worm Jr., Matthew Heatrick alongside Jason Dilworth, John Williams on row 4 with Daniel Gilding, Ross Dunstan alongside Thomas Grain on row 5. Row 6 is Eric Benson and Ryan Hamilton. You've then got Chris Chariton at the back of the grid. Quite a few names not taking part. I think we've got about 29 cars here, and we are ready to go racing here, David.
Yeah, absolutely. You see them just running around the last couple of corners. Pro-Ams will lead the way. Pros will lead the way. Pro-Ams in the middle, and then Ams leading at the back of the field. But yeah, only 11 cars in the Pro class. It's given Vince less of a job to do. But 75 minutes to go. It should be an absolute cracker.
Right, I'm getting PTSD seeing the safety car coming into the pit lane. We are getting ready to go racing here at Red Bull Ring. The red lights are on. The cars make their way round. It's a smaller than usual Pro field, and that is a great start from the Pro field. We've got 10 cars making their way down into turn 1 on the run up to the Niki Lauda curve. They get through the right-hander there, and just watching it, Gillian has a bit of a poor start there, goes down into 4th position. Here comes the Pro-Ams then, as Danes leads him over the line with your race winner from last round out. It's Max Furtwängler. They get going. The green flag flies. That's a cracking start for Chris Danes, but Max Furtwängler gets caught out. There's contact. Furtwängler almost gets sent into the wall. Excellent car control, and Furtwängler has to take to the wide escape road there. We move focus to the AMs. You can see picture in picture. That's the Pro-Ams as well. Levi Johnson is just absolutely gone. He's absolutely caught the rest of the AM field napping there. That's a huge start there for the AM battle. We've got a lead change for the Pros as well. Laurent Benzo into the lead. Harry Wills has gone into contact for the Pro-Ams as well. And I think I'm going to run out of breath in about 15 seconds here, David.
Absolutely. It's one of them, isn't it? Breathtaking stuff off the start. I mean, those two starts in the Pro-Am and the AM field from Danes and Johnson were fantastic, weren't they? Not necessarily held by the green flag, had to manage the start themselves and did a fantastic job of it. You see Dan Kell going into the final couple of corners all over the back of Francois Aldrini, and Laurent Benzo still leading the way. There's a dive up the inside. Whoa, very close there. I think that's Budovin Kuster trying to make the move. You can see them going 3 wide up the first start-finish straight. This is ridiculous again. It's a 75-minute race, ladies and gents. There's 2 mandatory pit stops, but that doesn't stop these lot, it seems. At every race so far, they've absolutely gone hell for leather, and we're seeing no different in the first lap or 2 tonight.
Yeah, we need to clarify, for those new to us tonight, for those just watching for the first time, this is it. Don't expect it to quieten down or anything. It's going to be this for the entire 75 minutes. We saw that earlier on at round 1. Where we were absolutely blown away with how crazy it was at Hockenheimring. But here we go with the Pro-Am battle then. This is, you can see further down the field there, that is Fierro making a decent move up on the inside there. Matson involved in that as well as Martin. We've got Dust up at the front of the field. That's where the Pros are as well. So I mean, amazing battles going on all the way through. O'Shaughnessy now, Herbert O'Shaughnessy from row 2 into the lead of the AM race as well now. So we've got a leader change down there. You've got contact between the 34 and 73. So you've got cars off as well there. That's in the Pro class. So everything changing there. I've got a feeling Cody Pride was caught up in that. And David, just again, a manic start to the race.
Yeah, it's nothing else you expect. You can see there's a car. There's Matthew Heatrick in the background there. You see Tom Grain getting caught up in that as well. It's people are fighting for position and sometimes forgetting the length of the race they've still got to do. You can see already, Herbert O'Shaughnessy, you talked about him getting on to the lead of the race after the first lap. He's already got a 4-second gap back to Chris Chatterton, just courtesy of the fact that everyone is battling so hard for these positions. There's 2 pit stops and another 73 minutes to go, ladies and boys and girls. Calm it down a little bit. I mean, don't, because that would make the broadcast very slow for us, but just rein it in a little bit, because there's a lot of moves that seem to make it a little bit late in the day, a little bit a day late and $1 short, I think.
I know, I love that there because you're echoing my thoughts as well. So we see Thomas Gillian fighting side by side up the inside there. That's Vince Peters in the 45. So again, you'd be expecting Vince to make huge moves up into this championship lead just now, but it's not happening. That is your championship leader. 3 wins on the bounce, and Vince Peters not making his customary charge through, but again, one of the things that we've seen is Vince takes measured performances, as we've got 2 cars retiring then from the pros there. You've got Arias Yumantis, Benjamin Blanche, and Johan Royer, your pole sitter, all showing as out of the race. And that is a turn up for the books. This is Levi Johnson. This is for the AMS then. And we saw Levi get a cracking start there. Oh, and that's just contact up the rear there. I was trying to phrase that politely, but I think picture paints 1,000 words there, David.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't say that without saying a little bit rude, can you? That was really unfortunate. It just looked like a little bit late on the brakes. Levi's a passenger at that point. There's nothing really he can do, and that does explain why Herbert O'Shaughnessy's got that big gap you can see in the number 17 car at the front of your picture, really starting to pull away. Jason Dilworth in second place. That's John Williams going deep into turn 2 or 3. No one really decides on how many turns there are at this track, do they? Because some of them count a little bend in a straight, some of them don't. But look at that 4.2 second gap. We're on to the 4th lap of this race. It's a really good start for O'Shaughnessy.
And that's Nick Merton getting assisted, I think is the polite word for that one. Assisted in the gravel. That's on the infield section there. And we're back to live action in the race. So now, it feels like every lap we're going to have to update you on who the new leader is. So it's Laurent Benzo who is in the lead of this race. Francois Aldrini into second place. Budovan Kuster into third. Bastien Medler in 4th position. And have a look at that. Who do you think is in 5th position? It's none other than Vince Peters. He's making his way up through there already. Great job to get up into 5th position ahead of Dan Kell and Thomas Gillian. We've got Nick Maidson down at the back of that pro group then in 8th position. Pro-Am battle, Max Furtwängler leading Chris Daines, Igor Koss, Stuart Reynolds and Steve Martin, along with Simon Matheson and Cody Pride. And I'm going to say a huge but here. You've got 7 cars, David, split by 2.5 seconds. I can see that lasting for 60 minutes, can you?
I wouldn't put it past them at all, even though there's pit stops to take into account. As Vince Peters looks at the inside, he's got Bastien Matler on the outside. As he goes to turn 1, backs out of it. Probably, echoes exactly what you said a minute ago about the fact that it's measured moves from the number 45, the Volante racing car, very sensibly backed out of it there. Knows that he's got 2 big long straights to get a bit more of a toe on. But yeah, the thing is, normally in any other series that I've commentated on, I should say for you, you'd expect this to end in tears in a couple of laps. But these guys have just got such an incredible ability to ride so close to each other. But in the main, I'm not going to say all the time, but in the main, they tend to keep away out of trouble, and it's really quite impressive.
Yeah, we saw it coming to a bit of a flashpoint at Sebring with some very silly collisions, but thankfully, for the most part tonight, it's going very well indeed. 7 minutes gone. And absolute devastation for Arias Yumantis there. He's had a timeout error on his rig, so he's disconnected from the server, and that is, yeah. I having had that as well, I can absolutely just feel for Arias on there. So hopefully we'll see him next time out at Watkins Glen, because of course the other big news is that there's a huge change to the calendar. Race 4, the next sprint race, is now going to be, instead of Zandvoort, it's going to be Watkins Glen Boot.
Yeah, absolutely. Be good to go to, of course, reprofiled it in the update, if I'm not mistaken. So it'd be nice to see the changes they've made to that. And I suppose the main reason being, for those of you who aren't aware, is because this series is so oversubscribed. The Zandvoort track and iRacing doesn't actually hold enough pit slots for everyone who has entered in the series, so we need to be a little bit more careful. But it'd be good to see them go into that one. And it's a very similar track, I suppose, in a way, to what we've got here. A couple of long straights, a couple of flowing corners, and still plenty of chances for overtaking, as we've seen so far this evening. Max Furtwängler still leading the Pro-Am class. Chris Daines is in behind, but he's under a lot of pressure from Igor Koss and Stuart Reynolds and Steve Martin as well, for good measure. So, still all to play for in every class at the moment in time.
Yeah, into the final corner goes Sveinung Mattisson, and that is not how you get that going. Oh, that's a little bit close. But to be fair, I mean, Sveinung did hold on to the brakes there and tried to roll off the racing line there. So I think he did everything right here. Back to the action then for the Pro-Am train. It's the only way that this can be described, as Max Furtwängler trying to make his way off into the distance ahead of Chris Daines, Igor Kost, Stuart Reynolds, Steve Martin, Cody Pride, all caught up in this battle here. And again, from personal experience, this doesn't compute, this doesn't make sense why you've got so many cars so close, and they'll have a look, but unless they can actually pull the move off, they back out of it. And unfortunately, my caveman brain is just too used to sticking down the loud pedal, David, and trying to make the move work, and then throwing a histrionic fit when inevitably I get put to the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much the same. I've maybe got a little bit more restraint than you have, but yeah, I'm with you on that completely. It's one of them. I think the impressive thing is, like you say, because they're doing what they are, because they're almost sounding out moves, you want to say, for want of a better phrase, they're not actually losing that much time. I mean, yes, they've lost a good sort of 2 or 3 attempts to Max Furtwängler in the last sector of the lap, but considering how close they are, as Igor Kost looks at the inside and so on, can he get the move done on Chris Daines? He can. Even there, that's a really clean move. He got the move done. Don't get me wrong, it looked like Chris Daines made it a little bit easier than he normally would have done where we're going on to the final lap, but it's very, very calm, very consistent, very precise racing, and it means that they're not losing too much time for those who aren't actually in these battles.
Yeah, and excellent racecraft as well from a lot of these drivers, because they've got that 3000 IQ brain going overdrive right now, because I can imagine what Chris Daines was thinking is that Igor Kost can get him, but then Chris Daines immediately has the slipstream going into the corner and straight out onto the brakes. You have to be kidding me. There is no way that Chris Daines has just made that work on the outside going into Schlossgold, and he gets that move back. That is impressive stuff, and there's still fighting going on. This is just amazing effort. But for me, Chris Daines to send that round the outside, that was impressive stuff.
Yeah, really quite impressive. It looks like Igor Kost actually made the move back now, so it's gone back to how it was before. But yeah, really impressive stuff. I was actually talking to a friend of mine who I did a league race with on ACC last night, and said exactly the same thing. You've got to, when you're in these kind of battles, you almost have to think at least 3 or 4 corners in advance. And Chris Daines did that in the main until he obviously lost the position fully to Igor Kost. But I'm sure we'll get it back. But you were absolutely right. He almost let the move go into turn 1, but knowing he's got 2 enormous straights to get a real hefty amount of slipstream and try and make the move again. It looked like he made it around the outside, but maybe lost it back to Igor on the infield. So it's a bit of a shame, but he'll regroup. There's still about a second between 2nd and 6th in the Pro-Am class at the moment. Still plenty to play for, and these podium positions in the Pro-Am class are still all to play for, even with 65 minutes left to go.
And that's exactly the other point as well, isn't it? 65 minutes is a very, very long time indeed. You've still got pit stops, and I think Chris Daines will really just be wanting to try and hold on to Igor Kost, let him drag him up to Max Furtwängler and catch back up to that lead car. But the other thing as well is that it takes 2 to tango in iRacing here, especially at this level where everyone is so fast. If you're going to make a move, you have to have the approval of the car that you're trying to overtake. And I know that sounds really silly to say, but you absolutely do. And this is into the last corner, not again from Sveinung Mattisson. That is the second time in about 2 laps there that he's done that, unless I think that might have been a replay from earlier. The only reason I realised that is because of that Porsche just in the background that was a way to potentially wipe him out here. Back to the point I was making about Chris Daines though, and overtaking, and I know that sounds counterintuitive because of all the racing games that we've all played, but when you're at this level, the only way that you get by another car is if they allow that move to happen. And cars that will allow move to happen are cars that know about their own pace and know about their own ability, or likely have you moved up. So if a car moves and lets me make the move on them, like, you know, keeps themselves over and doesn't fight it too hard, I get worried. Because I start thinking, what have they got in store? And you can see there, Chris Daines coming under huge pressure there from Reynolds behind him, Stuart Reynolds as well. Just keeping you updated on the Pro Battle as well. Laurent Benzo up 3.5 seconds ahead of Budovan Kuster, but Budovan Kuster has got a 6-car train that he is the lead conductor of right now, and that includes Francois Aldrini, Vince Peters, Bastian Maitler, and Thomas Gurlian and Nick Maidson all involved in that one as well. We've got fighting going on side by side, though. Stuart Reynolds then side by side with Chris Danes, and this is an epic battle. Surely now that's going to be Reynolds put to the inside. He's going to take that position. And yeah, great stuff to see from Stuart Reynolds there. This is epic fighting going on here, and Cody Pride, I think, is going to be the next man who fancies getting a little bit of this action here. I honestly, with 15 minutes gone in this race, it's so difficult to get any sort of boost, any sort of gap over the cars behind you here, David.
Yeah, absolutely. All they're doing is they're just forming into bigger and bigger packs. Like, you look at the Pro Class at the moment, you've got Thomas Goldalian all over the back of Bastian Mattler and Nick Madsen. Nick Madsen's 7th at the moment. You should see him in the number 20 car just on the inside of the corner there. It looks to get a really good run, but he's going to be shifted to the outside, and you'd expect hung out to dry quite comfortably by Goldalian to come into the infield section. But yeah, what they're doing is the gaps, if there's gaps forming, it seems to be it's that leader of the pack. So you see Benso, Furtwängler and Chatterton all at least 3 seconds ahead of the rest of the guys in their class. Everyone else is just kind of combining together to amalgamate into one giant train of cars. It's quite impressive, and if they continue doing it, Madsen shapes to the outside, not going to make a move there. Surely not. Looks for the switchback though into the final corner. That's going to be a brilliant move. Can he make it stick? Oh, it was one of them again. It was architected so nicely, and somehow, if it was me in the car, I'd have been in the wall by now, at least 4 or 5 times on this first 11 laps of this race.
Escape and reset to pits. That is my 2 favourite commands in iRacing, and ones that I use pretty much all the time, every race. Never mind though, the Pro-Am battle now is starting to heat up again. So we see Thomas Gurlian trying to go to the outside of this long right-hander here, still fighting it off. Hasn't learned his lesson. He hasn't had to. He gets a good drive out, and that is going to be a move done. And I tell you what, that is not a mean feat to be able to make a move around the outside of that turn number 2, that Remus corner, because that is a very, very intimidating corner.
Yeah, sometimes you can get a really good run out of it, like Goldalian, like Madsen did there, sorry. But yeah, sometimes, because they've got that really aggressive sausage curve on the outside of the circuit, if you do get caught on that, especially in these cars like this, when you've got those, you're lacking those electronic aids we've talked about many, many times before already this season, it makes it that much more difficult. So you've really got to plant the power. You've got to be so careful to get as much power through the back wheels as you can, without putting too much and getting the back end out of step. So yeah, really, really good move there from Madsen.
Let's get an update on the AM battle as well. Herbert O'Shaughnessy currently in the lead of this one, but this is Ross Dunstan now having a proper little battle going on, and I believe this is with Matthew Heatrick. Goes one way, jinks up the other, up the inside into Remus corner. That is going to be job done, but is Heatrick going to get the move out? Yep, Ross Dunstan spins up the back wheels, getting out of the corner, and there is nothing more frustrating than getting a move done and then immediately undoing all the great work that you've done on that. However, talking of great work, here comes Vince Peters sneaking along, trying to gently catch his way up to Francois Aldrini, who now loses that second place to Budovan Kuster. So Budovan Kuster up to second place there, and they're going to have to go some, because at the moment Laurent Benzo 5 seconds up the road here. But Vince Peters, he is like a silent assassin, isn't he? He's just very quietly picking his way through, knowing almost that it's an hour and 15-minute race here.
Yeah, absolutely. So calculated in the first 3 races that we've seen, or first 3 rounds, first 4 races that we've seen. I mean, didn't really see a huge amount of him in the first race at Le Mans, but done a really, really good job since. And like I say, obviously, 3 wins out of 3 is no mean feat. Quite impressive indeed. There's a back marker, hopefully getting away. Cody Pride looking at the inside of Chris Danes into turn 4. Really, really nice move late on the brakes. Is he managing to hold it? He is. That's going to be Danes coming back down to the outside. But again, you'd expect as they go into the infield, that's going to be move done for the number 15 car, Cody Pride. Yeah, you just see he closes the door. Chris Danes isn't going to make the move there. But going back to Vince Peters, yeah, He just seems to know the best time to make a move. It's like he's 4 steps ahead of everyone around them. He knows what he's doing. I don't think he's in he's not in any difficulty at the moment. I think he's probably just saving a little bit of fuel, trying to run his strategy a little bit longer, give himself a few more options to go deeper into this race.
And that is something that we do have to start considering very, very shortly, is strategy. Obviously, with the mandatory pit stops in this race, they do have to stop to get fuel and potentially also to get tyres as well. But Chris Daines on the back of Cody Pride here, and the thing for me about Chris Daines is that I'm not seeing a lot of aggression here. I'm seeing a lot of respect and a lot of excellent driving, but I'm not seeing him, putting the car in places where it shouldn't be, or trying to make moves that don't exist. He's almost accepting the position that he's in, and kind of maybe making that place stick.
Yes, I think the way I would describe it is polite. It's a very, very, very polite race from Chris so far. Like you say, in some occasions it looks like he's maybe given the move to someone thinking that he can maybe go for a move a little bit later on in the lap, but that one against Cody Pride, he made that move relatively easy. He let Cody up the inside. He could have covered it, obviously knowing that he might have potentially been on the outside coming into the infield as we're going to now, but you've got to, like I say, you've got to kind of throw caution to the wind at points here. Yes, it's a long race. Yes, we're only 20 minutes on the nose into this race, but you still need to be fighting for these positions. He's now dropped back. He was a few seconds off Max Verstappen before. He's now nearly 6 seconds back off that lead car. So he's got a bit of work to do, and he's got Martin just behind him in there as well. So he's got to be really careful of not losing any more positions and really plummeting down that Pro-Am field.
Back to the pro field now, and we've got a little 6-car choo-choo train is up the inside, makes the move. Vince Peters sees the position, gets it done, puts the car exactly where it needs to be. Francois Aldrini, you saw, was looking to try and get the cut back, and Vince Peters says, no thank you very much, sir, not today. Gets on his way, and the next car is going to be a bit of Kuster around the outside. This is the 92 and 96 going toe to toe then, as we saw them earlier on. Ross Dunstan, Matthew Heatrick picking up where they left things off right now. Matthew Heatrick can't quite get the move done just now on Ross Dunstan, but this is an epic battle here. Dunstan on top for just now. Heatrick's going to try and pull it on the inside. They're coming through into the last corner now. 21 minutes on the clock, and this is a battle, David, you feel really going to rage on. And again, it's one of those things that you have to use the air quotations. This is just a battle for 8th position in AM class, but for these two, this is a battle for the race lead.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, they're doing a fantastic job at the moment, and it'd be interesting to see whether Ross has the pace to get around him, because of course we saw him make the move into turn 2 a couple of laps ago. Looks like Matthew Heatrick's going to get the good run up the hill. He's used the slipstream. He's got the outside line going to the corner, so we'll see if he can make that outside line stick like Ross did before. Looks like he's going to close the door. Elbows out stuff from Dunstan there, but he gets a bit of wheel spin coming out of the corner, so that's going to put him under pressure. Heatrick's going to look back into the toe, back down the back straight. Can he get the move done into the third turn? Come down into there. Late on the brakes, he's going to hang it around the outside. No, he's not. Oh, a little bit of a shift. I don't think that was on purpose from Ross Dunstan under braking. It just covers him off, and Heatrick will have to try again, but he's certainly looking to manufacture that move. It looks as though these guys are really, really similarly paced, and that's making for a really good battle between them. Yeah,
it certainly is. And Ross Dunstan now almost certainly driving in his mirrors, having to think about exactly what Matthew Heatrick for Twisted Racing Blue it has got up his sleeves. Talking of teams though, impressive to see, and this was pointed out by Mark Fleming in the chat there, Eclipse Racing Team have 1, 2 and 3 in the AM standings right now. That is quite the turn up for the books in only our 3rd round.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good job from them so far. Like you say, Herbert's just managing to keep the gap to Chris at the moment. It was dropping below the 4 to 3 second mark a couple of laps ago, but he started to keep that there. Matthew Heatrick going at the inside there. Ross Dunstan, is he? No, doesn't manage to make it stick this time again. Just sticks a nose at the inside very, very wide there. That'll be an off-track penalty for sure. It could even be a slowdown potentially. We'll keep an eye on it. It looks like he has dropped back a little bit, but maybe the two aren't related. Back up to the fight in the pro field. That's Aldrini looking up the inside of Peters this time. So Vince Peters hasn't managed to put the move on Buda Kuster as well. It was like you say, we were waiting for him to make that kind of educated, really, really precise move up past Aldrini into turn number 2 as we go towards now. Hasn't done the same thing on Kuster, but is under a bit of pressure. Madsen looking around the outside of Matler there. Is he going to make the move? He is just about. He's going to have the outside line going into the third corner, though. Really, really good stuff from these guys. As Matthew Heatrick there off into the gravel. Wonder if it's been a coming together between him and Dunstan there.
I feel so bad that we cut away to look at the pros, and there's obviously some sort of coming together between the two of them. And there's a mistake then from Budovan Kuster that allows Vince Peters to go side by side. Is he going to get the move round the outside? He does. Vince Peters unleashed into second place, so Laurent Benzo needs to watch out. He needs to be careful because he is going to start chasing down that gap very, very quickly indeed. So 25 minutes gone in the race here, and David, I think for me this has certainly gone just exactly the way that I expected it here.
Absolutely, yeah. We've said it enough times, haven't we? Even in the pre-qualifying race at Le Mans, I don't think any of us expected, you, me, Mike on the cameras, or anyone else who's in the chat watching this as well, even the drivers for that matter. I don't think anyone really expected as much kind of balls to the wall action, shall we say, as we have had so far. And like I say, even in these endurance races, I dare I say expected it a bit more from the sprint race, because there's that shorter time, shorter races. You've got to kind of make your moves as and when you need to. But even these endurance races, people aren't holding back. You can see Aldrini in the foreground of the picture there, looking around the outside into turn number 2 around Budovan Kuster. Can he make the move stick? Oh, a little bit of a contact there, a little bit of a door rub from Kuster. I don't know whether that was intentional or not. You'd have to assume it isn't, but that is all the impetus Peters needs. He's going to start to build that gap and see if he can close in on Laurent Benzo. Quote to Nick Madsen, though, because he's second in the championship. He's 29 points behind Peters at the moment. He is trying to hold on to the back of that 45 car as if it's his last thing he'll ever do.
And he was at the back of that group as well, David. He had that moment where he got shown to the gravel right at this corner, actually, and is now back up into third position. So I would expect to see Vince Peters making his way back up and trying to close that gap to Laurent Benzo. I think he has got the pace already, taken 0.2 of a second. However, given that Budovan Kuster and Nick Madsen are behind him in this tight group, I think he's actually going to end up dragging them along with him, even though he's not actually intending to do so. I mean, if that gap goes over a second to Kuster and the train behind, yeah, that's it, it's done and dusted. But Benzo could actually end up bringing them with him, and we could see some definite chaos towards the second half of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. We've not seen enough already, of course. I would certainly pay for a little bit more was that to happen. You can see on your picture-in-picture, that's the Pro-Am battle at Stuart Reynolds on the back of Igor Koss with Cody Pride in for good company as well. You can see in the top corner of your screen, you've got Budovan Kuster looking up the inside of Nick Madsen. So it's Madsen looking around the outside, of Budovan Kuster. Cannot make the move stick. Aldrini sitting in the wings waiting for any position that will come his way. Little flip there. You can see Stuart Reynolds under pressure, as I said before, from Cody Pride, and that's a bat. Is that? Oh no, Steve Martin. Sorry, in the middle of those two, I think it is. I was getting a bit confused, thinking that was Matthew Heatrick. It could still well be, but all of these battles, it's so hard to keep a hold of, isn't it? There's so much going on.
Great move there from Nick Madsen. Gets the jump on Budovan Kuster. Kuster is absolutely furious. You can see he wants to get that position back, but he's going to have to watch out because Francois Aldrini is feeling a little bit racy as well. And this is the problem with these Porsches, David, is that, you know, 1 or 2 laps where you're pushing a little bit too hard and your tyres do start overheating a little bit. They get a little bit slidey and you need to back off it for about a lap or so just to let them cool back down again. And Mattler now makes a move on Aldrini, and Aldrini dropping through. Has Aldrini gone off? He has. Aldrini is into the wall and into pit lane. Francois Aldrini looks like that's going to be a retirement.
Oh, really big shame. He was slightly sliding down the field, but yeah, really unfortunately, he got caught up in a bit of contact there. Bit of a shame as well. That's Budovan Kuster going sideways out of the first corner. They're still not giving Benzo a chance to. Peters isn't really closing in on Benzo's gap. We'll keep an eye on Aldrini, see if he does manage to come back out of the pit lane. Hopefully, he does get the chance to, and if he does, maybe a slightly alternate strategy for him, pitting earlier than the rest, and see if he can make some of that clean air and really start to make a move on some of these guys ahead.
God, this is so clever, actually, from Vince Peters, because, look, we know he's insanely fast, but he's actually just keeping the pace with the leader. So he is 100% in my eyes, David. Fuel saving. He is on strategy. He is on economy mode right now, trying to get as much in from that tank as he possibly can. Meanwhile, back with the Pro-Am battle, Max Furtwängler still leads Igor Kost by 2.96 seconds. Cody Pride now up to third place in that Pro-Am battle ahead of Stuart Reynolds. You've got Steve Martin. Chris Daines has shuffled down to sixth place, if you can believe that, in the Pro-Am battle. Harry Wills down in seventh, and James Fierro into eighth place in the Pro-Ams. AMS still Herbert O'Shaughnessy now 2.6 seconds ahead of Chris Chatterton. John Williams in third position, Ryan Hamilton in fourth, and then in fifth place Eric Benson, Daniel Gilding in sixth, Thomas Grain in seventh, Francois Alderini and Jason Dilworth in the fight as well. Bastian Mattler saying into the pit lane here.
Yeah, it looks like he's gone in. Francois Aldrini back out on track, so it looks like it, although there probably was some damage, he's been in the pit lane for nearly a lap there. Looks like he's back out, so hopefully served the first of his two mandatory pit stops he's got to serve this evening. We'll keep an eye on Mattler as well, like you say. David's back into the pit lane. Nick Madsen there, fastest lap of 1:30.16. It's nearly 0.3 of a second quicker than anyone else. So he's clearly got the pace, and he's going to start turning the wick up on Vince Peters, and he needs to, because he needs to try and claw back a couple of points. If Vince Peters starts to continue to build that gap in the championship, it's going to become unassailable before too long. So he's got to pull his finger out and really start to try and make the move on Vince there.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with you on that one. We are starting to see the gaps start to gently stretch out a little bit now. Peters still just 0.4 of a second ahead of Nick Maidson. This is the battle though for Pro-Am right now. You've got Igor Koss, you've got Stuart Reynolds, Steve Martin and Cody Pride now. So Cody Pride losing that position to Steve Martin here, but again, we don't know about strategy, David. We don't know how many of these drivers are really trying to save a little bit of fuel. What I would say though is Laurent Benzo, Vince Peters and Nick Maidson have all done personal best fastest laps. In fact, Nick Maidson done a 1:30.16. So are we going to see some pit stops coming in very soon? Because remember, 2 mandatory pit stops tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, Madsen's got to try and make that pit stop happen soon. He's all over the back of Vince Peters. You can see from the cockpit cam of that number 20 Porsche Cup car. John Williams, in the meantime, in the AM class, is trying to put the moves on Ryan Hamilton going through turn 3, coming back down the hill into the infield section. This is Nick Madsen once more in the Mag Performance SRT car. Just gets a little bit of the inside curve as they go through that hairpin up onto the back straight. He's just about in the wheel tracks of Vince Peters, but like you say, is he turning the wick up because he's running out of fuel? Is he trying to go hammer time and get a good couple of laps in before the stint finishes? You'd think at around about this time, given the amount of time we're into the race, and obviously they've got that 55 litre max capacity in the fuel tank, you'd expect to think and see that people will start to make more and more pit stops over the next lap or two as Madsen goes up the inside onto the infield, all the way along the side of Vince Peters. Can he get the move done? He's got the inside to the next left-hander as well. He looks like he's got the move done. Brilliant stuff from the number 20 car, and that puts him up into P2.
Well, that was unexpected. of all of the things I had on my notebook to think about tonight, Nick Maidson absolutely sending it up the inside of Vince Peters. And to be fair, that wasn't like a full send, but that was a very carefully calculated move done by Nick Madsen. So brilliant stuff there. Takes the position from Vince Peters and Budivin Kuster just behind. We've got Thomas Gurdelian into the pit lane as well, so he'll be making his stop, and yeah, that is a move and a half. And now that gap to Laurent Benzo, 7.5 seconds here, David. Do we honestly think anybody's going to be able to actually catch him?
It doesn't look like it's promising, does it? I mean, Benzo's going to be sitting very comfortably, I would say, at this point in time. We'll see, get a bit more of an idea once the pit lane, or once the strategy comes through, as Harry Wills gets a couple of wheels on the curb and just locks up the brakes, doesn't even activate the ABS. There isn't any, of course. Jumps on the brakes, locks at the back end, and loses that in turn. Eric Benson, similar sort of thing, but fortunately, well, I say fortunately, he did the opposite. He kept it going in the right direction into the corner, lost it on the exit. Just shows you how difficult these cars can be to handle, especially if you have any sort of lapse in concentration.
Yeah, it certainly is. So great to see him back on the black stuff and facing the right way, and no real damage done to that car. So he kind of gets away with it. But in the meantime, Nick Maidson chasing down Peters right now. Chasing down Benzo right now. Whether or not he can actually do that. The thing is, though, as well, Laurent Benzo, impeccable pace as Maidson into the pits here. So second place into pit lane, closely followed by Budovan Kuster. So Vince Peters now into second place. But again, the point I was making, Laurent Benzo, 130.38.
Yeah, he's not slowing down, is he? I mean, that was 100th of a second off of his personal best time of a 130.37 just a few laps ago. So he's really kind of turning the wick up, really turning the screw and getting that pace in. You can see Dan Kell also into the pit lane. He's fifth in class at the moment, so he's come into the pits for the pro class as well. Max Furtwängler is into the pits, as is Igor Koss. You can really see the starting to come in now. These are probably the guys who have run a fairly standard strategy. You'd expect those who've been able to do a bit of fuel saving will continue on for at least another lap. Eric Benson in the pit lane, Igor Koss and Chris Danes in there. Is also Stuart Reynolds promoted to the lead of the Pro-Am class. This is where it becomes interesting. And going back to what you said earlier, David, about is Benzo home and dry? It looks for all intents and purposes like he is, but we saw at Le Mans in the qualifying round, obviously, Francois Aldrini was good 3-4 seconds ahead and ended up in P3 or 4 by the end of it. So something to keep an eye out for. Strategies aren't always that simple.
Yeah, they really aren't. And with 35 minutes gone in the race, or just about now, we are firmly into our pit stops just now. This is really where we have to give the cars and the drivers a second or two, or a couple of minutes, really, just to cycle through and get their strategy before we can really sort of pick the bones out of this and try and figure out exactly where the dice lay here.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see Laurent Benzo come into the pits now. Really decent lap going into the pit lane, 133.6. You can see Nick Madsen on the outside. Budovan Kuster on the outside, switches to the inside. Really nice move if he can make that stick. Matler in P3 at the moment. Benzo still in the pits. That promotes Vince Peters into the lead of this race. So he is going to be trying as hard as he can to put in the best qualifying laps he can do. You'd expect he's at least maybe 1, perhaps 2 laps maximum away from coming back into, or coming out for his pit stop. You see Benzo coming out of the pits now. He's at pit exit. So interestingly, it looks like these guys may actually make the move. Oh no, he's come out of the pit lane now. So looked like it was okay. Must have been another car in pit lane. You see Stuart Reynolds, Steve Martin in the pit lane in the Pro-Am class. See where they come out in relation to Max Furtwängler. And now really it's just a keen eye on what happens with Laurent Benzo. He's 2 seconds ahead of Bastian Matler. So he's not necessarily, he's lost a hell of a lot of time in that pit stop phase. Oh, as Madsen goes a little bit deep, nearly goes at the rear end of Laurent Benzo. And fortunately, no coming together between those two. You can see Reynolds and Martin coming out of the pit lane. John Williams into the pit lane in the AM class now Max Furtwängler re-inherits the lead of that Pro-Am class. Igor Koss comes out just behind him. Stuart Reynolds looks like he's come out in the middle. Oh no, Cody Pride just made the move. And as you can see there, Vince Peters back in, or is now in pit lane. So this is the one we need to keep an eye out for. Will he get out ahead of Laurent Benzo? If he does a similar timed stop to Bastian Matler, then there's definitely a chance that he can get into the lead of this race.
Absolutely, and the thing with that is that it's always fascinating to me to watch how the strategy folds out and how much time can be won or lost through that pit stop, through not just the actual pit stop itself, but through what you're actually doing, whether you're taking new tyres, whether you're taking more fuel, whether you're taking less fuel, whether your in-lap was absolutely amazing. But for the looks of it, I mean, that is a huge pit stop for Vince Peters, if that is the case. If you're telling me that is Laurent Benzo up there just in front, and that gap is now down to a second, that is a ridiculous pit stop for Vince Peters.
Absolutely, you've got to wonder. There's got to be an. Budovan Kuster goes to the inside into the hairpin. Can he make the move stick on Nick Madsen? It looks like he's just about ahead of him on track. Will he keep the move going down into turn 3? They're alongside each other down that back straight. Can they stick with it? Can Madsen hold on? Can Kuster make the move up the inside? It's that banked corner, the long right-hander. If Kuster's going to get the move done, he has to get it done now. He doesn't. And that's going to give Nick Madsen a chance just to slam that door shut going into the infield section. But going back to Laurent Benzo, in fact, we'll come back to it in a second, because they're still side by side as Kuster goes sideways and Madsen somehow manages to hold on to that position. Back markers galore in the frame there as well. But I don't know how Nick Madsen's managed to hold on to that position.
That is absolutely nuts. And you know how we were coming up to turn 2 and we cut away to another car. You know when you get that in real life where a broadcast director cuts away for a really bad accident. I thought that's exactly what had happened there. I thought Kuster had sent Maidson off to the shadow realm or something like that and just absolutely went straight on. But how they kept the fight going on. And again, this comes back to something that we keep saying almost ad nauseum here, David. The fact that the drivers so much... Wait a minute, hang on. We need to check this. What the hell has happened here? How has both Ryan Hamilton and Jason Dilworth jumped Herbert O'Shaughnessy? Both of them, I believe, have already pitted.
They have indeed, yeah. I'm just looking at the timing chart on another screen at the moment. So everyone has made a pit stop. Levi Johnson is one of those who's made 2 pit stops. Matthew Heatrick in the pit lane at the moment as well. Jason Dilworth only pit for 9 seconds. He was stationary for. You can see that on the top there, 9.7 seconds to Hamilton's 15.2 to O'Shaughnessy's 20-second pit stop. So that must explain to it. And you saw at the top there as well, the difference between Peters and Benza was 5 seconds. So that was 8 and a bit seconds behind going into the pit stop phase. Is now 0.8 of a second. So he's gained 5 seconds in the pit stops, but Vince Peters has managed to gain 3 seconds around presumably what you can only imagine is the outlap and the inlap. That is incredible pace that he's got there.
Yeah, that's an excellent bit of analysis there. Thanks for that, David. Just seeing there, that is Nick Maidson making his way through as well. I believe that was one of the lapped cars that was getting passed there by Nick, trying to catch up to the back end there of Bastian Mattler, who we haven't really spoken about too much in the race so far, because Bastian was the tail end of that group for the best part of it, as we see Francois already a lap down there. So I've got no idea what has happened with Francois, but great to see him still back out there and trying to circulate nonetheless. I'm also looking at that gap between Laurent Benzo and Vince Peters, and what did we say 15 minutes ago? I literally asked you if it was like, do we think that Laurent Benzo can get caught? And we were both thinking, with the gap going out the way that it was, Peters was really, it was not looking good. Now it's down to half second, and now it feels almost inevitable.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's crazy. Like it was 6 seconds that you and I both thought, well, it's looking pretty ominous for anyone behind him. But it just shows you how these different strategies can really play favour to other people. And like I say, Vince Peters is definitely one of them. But of course, like I said, he's not just benefited from a quicker pit stop, he's benefited from the time he's gained on the in-lap and the out-lap. I actually saw the 2 in-laps from both of them. I didn't see the out-laps, unfortunately, but the in-laps between Benzo and Peters, there was actually a second difference to the benefit of Vince Peters. So clearly shows you maybe a bit more aggressive going into pit lane. But going back to Bastian Mattler, he was 3 seconds quicker in the pit stop phase than anyone else. Of course, that does potentially suggest he's underfueled slightly, so he'll pit earlier for his second stop. But it's really showing you that it's not just a case of, look, who can you make the move on track? They're really playing that 4D chess game in the pit stop phase as well.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And just watching that gap coming down and down. So at the moment then, in the Pro class, it's Laurent Benzo from Vince Peters and Bastian Mattler in Pro-Am. It's Max Furtwängler 3.1 seconds ahead of Igor Kos and Corey Prime back up into P3 in that Pro-Am fight as well. You've then got Jason Dilworth in the lead ahead of Ryan Hamilton, and Tobias Bowie in third place in that AM fight as well. So action aplenty as we come up to... my maths has failed me. We're well and truly past the halfway point of the race by about 4 minutes. But again, I mean, it is flying by, and you certainly are not shortchanged in terms of action on the track.
No, absolutely. It's something we've become almost a bit too accustomed to, maybe, in terms of the action that we're seeing. We get completely spoilt for choice of what to catch on. And even now, you've got the battle for the Pro-Am second place spot at the moment. You can see that's Max Furtwängler in the background there, just going down towards the 150 metre board. You see that number 5 car just in the foreground there. You've got Kos Pride, Reynolds and Martin all battling over that second place at the moment. Vince Peters within 4/10 of a second of Laurent Benzo. Madsen within half a second of Bastian Mattler. There's battles all up and down the field, and you really are spoiled for choice. And like you say, we're over halfway, so we're getting into the latter stages of this race. You see the sunset's coming down. You can see that beautiful glow on the infield of the Red Bull Ring circuit at the moment, and there is still plenty to play for. I think the only one potentially, although we said this a little while ago and we got completely proved wrong, is Jason Dilworth's got a 9-second gap at the front. Is he potentially in for an M class win? I don't know anymore, because we've just seen Laurent Benzo lose 8 seconds in the pit stop phase.
Well, anything is possible. The other thing is we don't know what Laurent Benzo is like. It's Chris Chatterton going around the outside with, oh my goodness me, Tobias Bowie. This is a proper little battle. As far as I remember, these two are teammates, so they need to keep it nice and easy. Chris Chatterton holds on to that. Chris Chatterton takes that position from Tobias Bowie. So the two teammates swap places. Perhaps that wasn't a consensual swap, but it was a swap nonetheless, David. They got it done, and they didn't take each other out. And it would be a rather awkward thing to do, taking out your teammate at the aforementioned Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of them, isn't it? You'd love to hear it if they're in a team radio chat at the moment. Just went, I'm going to let you go past, Chris, but let's make it look really good for the cameras because Mike's watching at the moment. I would have loved to have heard if they'd done that. Would have been quite impressive if that was architected, but it was a good move from Chris nonetheless. Vince Peters, you can see in the main picture of your screen, really all over the back of Laurent Benzo now. He's all over the back of that Monaco Esports car. He's really starting to turn the screw, and he's come from, like I say, not really being in a position to get into the lead of this race. He's going for a 4th win in a row at the moment, and this is incredible stuff from the number 45 car.
It really is. It's fantastic to see, and I won a medal actually, David, because 45 minutes into the broadcast, that's my first reference to F1. So yeah, I'm very pleased with myself. I've had to hold back pretty much all day on this, so yeah, I'm very happy with myself here. Vince Peters, though, I mean, this is just amazing stuff. Look at how on the limit he is. It's not like, Laurent Benzo is like slow and, it's just Vince Peters faster than everyone else. Everyone's really fast, and Vince Peters is just like that much faster than these really fast pro drivers. It's scary at times to see just how much he is in tune with that car, how much car control he has, how he knows exactly where to put it, but when to put it where. And Laurent Benzo as well, this is a lot of respect from Vince Peters as well. The fact that he's not just sending it up. Laurent Benzo more than capable of holding Vince Peters off. Vince has been in this position now for 3 or 4 laps here and just cannot find a way past. Maybe he doesn't need to right now. Maybe he's waiting for the pit stops, but who knows? I mean, Vince obviously had a shorter pit stop. Is he going to have to pay for that in the second one?
Yeah, absolutely. That could potentially explain why he just... I'm not saying he's sitting behind Laurent Benzo at the moment, but he's certainly using him as... It looks like he's just basically letting him tow himself around the straights of the Red Bull Ring. So yeah, if he is doing something, it's a very high IQ move. If he's just sitting behind Laurent Benzo just to get as much fuel saved as possible to try and elongate that stint, and then, like I say, just splash and dash at the end and be done with it and crack on. They're running a little bit slower than the other cars behind them at the moment, so about 2 or 3 tenths off. It's not necessarily anything that's going to make any major indents for Bastian Mattler, because he's got Madsen and Kushta in for good company behind. This is the battle in the prime class still for P2. Looks like Chris Daines has just dropped off the back of this one a little bit. He's 5 seconds back from these guys now, so it's a 4-way battle for P2. Igor Kos, followed by Cody Pride, followed by Stuart Reynolds, followed by Steve Martin. And we've got support from the Pride family in the chat as well. Dan Pride shouting for Cody in the chat at the moment. He's got a podium position at the moment, but he's looking to make that one better and get himself into P2. And to be fair, he's got a very good chance of doing it into the back end of this race.
Yeah, he absolutely does, and it's great to see. That's the important thing. We've got this 4-way battle for that second place watching Corey Pride fighting down Igor Kos. And again, we've said this quite a lot, being caught in in between a rock and a hard place. You're wanting to hunt down Igor Kos and keep ahead of Stuart Reynolds and ahead of Steve Martin as well for that Pro-Am fight. Knowing that at a track like this, where high speed is the name of the game here, keeping as much speed as you possibly can through the corners, you have to keep that momentum up. So again, we see the likes of Peters and Benzo. You can be behind the car, but unless you know you're going to make that move stick, maybe it's better just staying behind until you 100% can guarantee you're going to go forward, because what you don't want is to go two cars back.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly, like I say, it's exactly the position Cody's finding himself at the moment. If he doesn't make the right move, he will lose positions. It's just going to happen. He's got Reynolds and Martin so close for company. The move will happen. Look at Vince Peters. He's pushing Laurent Benzo through the infield as they come on to the final couple of corners, back up the hill. I think they've got a couple of back markers ahead of them on the track. I thought I saw in the foreground, so that's something to keep an eye out for. Yeah, could you see just going into the final couple of corners, hitting that inside curb, running it wide. Lots of track limits to use on the back end here. Horrible little final corner, really offsets the car, but manages to get out into it. He loses a little bit of time, does Peters, through that final couple of corners, as Steve Martin up the inside of Stuart Reynolds. Can he make the move stick? It looks like he can. Really clean move from Steve there. Got on the brakes late, managed to make the move in the braking zone, but still managed to hit the apex. That's really impressive stuff.
Certainly was. I'm also noticing that your AM leader, or former AM leader, is into the pit lane just now. So we've got a change as Hamilton goes into the lead. Ryan Hamilton then of the AM class just now. Corey Pride still all over the back of Igor Kos here just now. And this is a fascinating battle going on just now. Indeed, we've got Ross Dunson into the pits, Levi Johnson, Matthew Heatrick as well. And again, so now we're into the final pit stop window, I would say. Again, there's no time where the drivers have to take the pit stops, but obviously the fuel tank and the tyre situation is going to determine. Now, if you're Vince Peters, do you want to try and just get an undercut, or do you want to try and make this move on the track? In the case of the Pro-Am and the AM battle, it all looks fairly straightforward for the likes of for Max Furtwängler, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Max has been at the front of the Pro-Am class for pretty much start to finish since everything kind of settled down. So he's in a really good position. He's keeping that gap fairly stagnated at the moment. It's sitting around the 3-second mark. So he's not losing time. He's not gaining time. He's doing pretty much what he needs to do. So he's doing a fantastic job of that at the moment. But yeah, just going back to what you said about Vince Peters, it is an interesting quandary for him, isn't it? Because you can see there they're doing high 30s. They're about half a second, 3 or 4 tenths off of their personal bests in the race right now. But like I say, how much has Vince got left in the tank? You can see how much quicker he is in certain sections, but is that because of all the slipstream he's getting down the straight? So if it was me, I'd probably try and force the undercut, knowing that I've probably got less fuel in the tank as well. So if I was him, the main thing you want to do is leave it as long as you can. If your opponent pits, carry on if you can. If he doesn't, you go yourself. And that's the way I would look at it. Do the opposite of what they do, just to try and force the move.
Doing the opposite of what the car in front does. That's a bold strategy. And one we've actually seen come to effect very, very well in quite a few different opportunities. So I think you're absolutely spot on with that one, David. I think it is just going to be a case of it's almost like a game of bluff between these drivers now, as the track starting to progress and start to get a little bit darker as the time wears on here at Red Bull Ring. But Laurent Benzo then in the lead of this race, and again we've got 25 minutes left to go here. Well, about 23 minutes left to go. Thinking about pit stops, thinking about where we're going to see drivers making those changes there, and I'm just wondering, where do we go from here? And just seeing that beautiful sunset in the background there.
Yeah, it's quite a picturesque setting, isn't it? I mean, if we look at them at the moment, so pretty much everyone pitted around lap 22, 23. You can see that on the timing chart. We can see roughly how long they've gone. Most people pitted for 20 seconds. Again, I'm not that familiar with this side of things, but I would imagine that's probably a full tank, I would have thought. So realistically, it's a case of how much farther can you go? in terms of that, because you need to do another pit stop. You might as well just fuel up for the amount of time you need. How late can you leave it to go in and literally pit as late as you possibly can? Can you pit with a couple of minutes left to go if that's possible? I think we saw Dan Handover do that at I think it was the race at Hockenheim a few weeks ago, round 1. You can see the lights coming on now as well. In the pro class, you see, look at them, you can't really miss them, can you? But it's a bit up in the air. I mean, look, there's 5 seconds, 5 seconds between the top 5 in the pro class. Same goes for the pro am class as well. There's still a possibility, if someone puts a really bold strategy out there, for this to really get thrown on its head, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Right, let's have a look through the timing tower then and see who we think could throw an absolute curveball. I'm expecting Ross Dunstan to make his way back up as we see Bastian Mittler into the pit lane. So now we're starting to see the pro class into the pits as well. What do we think then? What could happen? What about Boudewijn Kuster then? Because at the moment he is about 2 seconds back, maybe 3.5 seconds back on the leader. Again, anyone from Kuster down, if they do an amazing pit stop, they could really jump the gun and catch everyone out here. But it's that whole thing, isn't it, of you can't kid a kidder. I think if Vince Peters is going to be beaten by anyone, it's going to be difficult to see who can out-strategize him, because he is the almost the master of the undercut here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a keen eye on Nick Madsen as well. He's quickest out of anyone really at the moment. Did a 1:30.3, which is 0.4 of a second quicker than Peters on the last lap, and he's really the one I'm keeping an eye out for. Bastian Mattler, he's come into the pits. We saw that a second ago. His pit stop was only 12.5 seconds. So obviously, of course, with just over 20 minutes left, there's no need to really fill up the car as much as you did before. But yeah, it's an interesting one to see. You see Steve Martin trying to go up the outside, up the hill into the second corner, trying to go around. Stuart Reynolds locks up the front brakes. You see the tyres just stop spinning there for a second. Just had to get off the brake just to realign those wheels and get the thing moving again so he can turn in. So didn't manage to make the move there, but it looks like he's going to be trying to force the move and force the issue. Is he going to go for a late move to the inside? He's not. And again, that typifies the quality of race we've got here, doesn't it? Because if you were in a race that didn't have the quality driver such as this, you probably have expected to see someone absolutely send that up the inside. But Steve knows what he's doing. He's sensible. He's waiting for the right move and knew at the time that wasn't the right one.
And that wasn't absolutely at all a sense of disappointment in the voice there when you said that it was all cool, calm and collected. It was a measured move. I know there is part of us that kind of does enjoy seeing the chaos, but it's so refreshing to see championships like this where it's proper racing. It's like proper racing for 75 minutes, mostly because I'm not used to watching this sort of restrained affair. It's really cleansing to watch this sort of stuff. Back to the battles though, so it's still Laurent Benzo leading Vince Peters by about half a sneeze. That's about the metric term that we have to start using for these two now, because Vince Peters is all over the back of Laurent Benzo, but in a very controlled way. Peters has had the measure, and I think you were right in what you said about 25 minutes ago there, David. The fact is he's just behind the air of that car. He's leaving as much of the fuel in the tank as he possibly can here and making that Porsche go as long as it can as Boudewijn Kuster into pit lane here.
Yeah, Boudewijn Kuster going into the pit lane. Interesting to see whether he will manage to get out there. We'll keep an eye on his pit stop time in a second. I'm still keeping an eye on Nick Madsen. He's so much quicker than these guys at the moment. You see 4/10 of a second quicker than Benzo, 6/10 quicker than Vince Peters in the last lap. He's starting to claw those guys in. He's a really one to keep an eye on. He's fastest lap of the race so far. No one's quicker than him as it stands in this race so far, and he is the fastest man out on track. Whether he's doing what he did, because we saw how quick he was at the back end of his first stint, whether he's doing the same now remains to be seen. You can see there's the fastest laps in purple of those in each class. So you can see Madsen getting the fastest lap in the Pro class, Cody Pride in the Pro-Am class, and then Dan Gilding in the Pro-Am class. But again, look at how close they are, like a second between across the three classes in terms of the fastest lap. That is incredible. Really close stuff across everyone in this race, no matter what class application they've got.
Now, I don't wish to worry you, but Budovan Kuster is still in the pit lane just now. That
No.
is looking a very, 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 very long time. That is 50 seconds that he has been into to pit lane here. I wonder if Kuster has had a bit of a moment, and that's why he's into the pits. That certainly looks way longer than anybody else right now. And in fact, he's going out now. Yeah, that is not a good look for Budovan Kuster. Drops down to 15th, 16th place overall, and we'll see where he goes when he eventually files out. 8th place still in the class, but I believe that actually puts him a lap down here. So this is a replay then of the Eclipse Racing Team's Levi Johnson, and oh, that's a very strange place to stop the car. I wonder if there's a hardware failure there.
Yes, the only thing you can expect it would have been, isn't it? Because, like I say, just stopping on the infield. Unfortunately, he was out of the way, so it didn't really cause anyone too many issues. Fortunately for him, but yeah, a bit of a strange one there. Something to keep an eye out for, just to see if anything does happen again. Nick Madsen now 1.3 seconds behind Laurent Benzo. That's the gap between the leader and the cars behind them. So he's starting again. He's continuing. To really kind of make an indent into that gap between himself and Vince Peters. Tobias Bowie all over the back of Chris Chatterton. We saw a reversal of that move a little while earlier, so he's going to see if something happens again. That is a back marker, I think, or a lap car in the foreground, because Ryan Hamilton is a few seconds ahead. Look at the gap now between Vince Peters and Laurent Benzo, just over a tenth of a second. I think we're going to see a move happen potentially at some point soon.
But it's going back up. That's the thing, is that he brings the gap right back down. Look at Nick Mason now. He's under a second, as is the battle between Cody Pride. You've got Reynolds in there as well, Stuart Reynolds and Steve Martin. Watching them fighting out as well here. This has just been a cracking little fight that's been going on and on and on. And if anything, Vince Peters is dropping back at a rate of knots. Then he comes in. The timing tower is like a yo-yo right now, and I think we're not going to see anything until we get to these final 5 minutes. I wonder if we're in for a last-minute dash, because all of these cars now running with, 15 minutes left to go. I think they're trying to run them as lean as they possibly can. Yeah,
absolutely. Don't go anywhere, folks. This one is still all to play for in every class. I still don't think that anyone has got their position wrapped up at this moment in time. Of course, the closest battle you can see is Cody Pride just gets a little bit of a nudge. Luckily for him, he manages to keep it in a straight line. I think it was just one of those where I think it was Stuart Reynolds or Steve Martin, not sure exactly which one it was, just didn't expect potentially the amount of deceleration that Cody Pride went through. Of course, he went into the pit lane, you see there, but so close. This is Vince Peters all over the back of Laurent Benzo. He's been like that for the past 25-30 minutes. He's still there. Is he managing it, or can he just not make the move? That is not the sight you want in your rearview mirror. It doesn't matter who it is. He looks to the inside coming into the final couple of corners. Can he make the move stick, or is this just a dart into the pit lane? We'll see. Does he slow the car down? He doesn't, and he is through as Madsen comes into the pit lane. That was a move, David, that I did not see coming.
Yeah, I think Madsen, though, saw it coming, so he decided he's not wanting any part of this little fight here. I wonder either Laurent Benzo's tyres have gone, or he needs to watch that fuel very, very carefully indeed. But Vince Peters, like, if this is how it's going to pan out, this has been a masterclass in strategy and driving from Vince Peters, because at one point, about 25 minutes into the race, me and you were chatting about, whether or not he could bring a 7-second deficit. He took 5-6 seconds out in pit stops, and he's now into the pound seats. He's off into the lead and off down the road. Pro-Am as well, Max Furtwängler still ahead of Igor Kos and Martin in third place as well. You've then got in the AM class, it's Tobias Bowie leading Chris Chatterton and Thomas Gilding there as well. 13 minutes left to go. When are we going to see the rest of the pit stops?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see Nick Madsen, he's come back out of the pit lane, 10.78 second pit stop. This is a replay of Harry Wills. We saw him get into a similar position under the brakes going down into turn number 3. He gets it on the exit this time. Oh, it was so close to keeping it. Big old shunt into the wall, just caught that horrible giant yellow sausage curb on the exterior. You can see Budivin Kuster doing the same thing. He goes wide coming into the final couple of corners. Looks like he manages to get it back under control, hits the bump, and just about... I say that, yeah, replay still going. Yeah, it looks like he's managed to make it through okay, but very sideways through there. Vince Peters in the pits. Laurent Benzo carries on going. So it doesn't look like there was as much of an issue as you maybe thought. Look at that time, though. 132.8 going into the pit lane. It was 133.6 for Nick Madsen. So he's doing all he needs to do. Let's keep an eye on the pit stop timer. It's just coming out of the pits. Now it was a half a second quicker, so you'd expect Vince Peters going to come back out ahead of Nick Madsen.
You would, but I hate to say this, but I was panicking. I thought Thomas Gilderlein had still done hit both his pit stops, but he has yet to pit. Well, that's resounding then, isn't it, for Vince Peters? I mean, 25 seconds, 26 seconds ahead of Nick Madsen. Yeah, that one's done and dusted and in the books already. Stunning strategy there for Vince Peters to take the lead of this race. Obviously, it's not over yet. Obviously, we'll still keep our eye on it. But yeah, although saying that, Vince Peters very, very slow out of the pit lane and losing a bit of time. In fact, Nick Madsen is now so that must have been my timing tower that was misleading me a bit there, because that gap's only 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think it disappeared. So I think you're right. I think it was just the timing tower just kind of rejigging itself, recalibrating. Still enough for gap, I think. I think Vince has got it in the locker to hold him off. Now it's really a case of, so he's 27 seconds, 23 seconds off of Laurent Benzo. I think that potentially means that Vince is going to come out in the lead. It's a case of not by when, but by how much will he come out in the lead of that pro class. Max Furtwängler still 4.5 seconds ahead in the pro class of Eagle Cross, nearly 5 seconds now. That pro-am train is starting to kind of divvy out and sort of shift out a little bit. Gaps are forming there. You can see the same in the am class. Tobias Bowie leading the way from Dan Gilding and Jason Dilworth, who has done a really good job considering Jason was on an alternate strategy. Of course, we saw him pit very early and then pit earlier than everyone else in that second pit stop phase as well. So really good job from him to come back and get what looks to be a potential podium finish.
Yeah, we're starting to see the gaps all starting to spread out a little bit now, with the fact that obviously we've got Pro-Am now separated by about 7 seconds over the top 3 there. You've got the Am battle separated by about 16 seconds over the top 3, and the pros at the moment, if you ignore Laurent Benzo and Thomas Gilderlein, who have to pit, you're probably looking around about 16 seconds. You're probably only looking about 4 seconds between first, second, and third. So Pro is by far going to be the closest battle when they do come out. We're still wanting to see what Vince Peters can do coming across the line to get a lap in, because he's still on his last lap was the pits, and Thomas Gilderlein into pit lane just now then. And yeah, this is starting to get a little bit touch and go now, because that gap is 23 seconds, I think, 24 seconds between Benzo and Peters.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going to happen here, to be honest. Normally, I like to think I've got a pretty good grasp of what's going to happen in these situations, but Laurent Benzo's still going. As you see, Chris Dane's a little bit deep, nearly got one of the back markers looking to make a move back on them there. It looks like Benzo's just, we said it already, he's running that car as dry as he possibly can. He's probably calculating it profusely in his cockpit at the moment, going, how many laps have I got left that I can do, and how late can I leave it? Because he's still got a chance. I mean, look, he's 28. He's the best part of 24 seconds ahead. We'll keep an eye on the gap. He was a 1/10 and a half quicker than, he was 2 tenths, nearly 3 tenths quicker than Vince Peters in the last lap. If he can continue to make that gap and he pits late enough, there's still it's a slim chance, but there's still a potential chance he can come out and win this race against what seemingly is all the odds.
Yeah, certainly is looking like that way. We'll wait to see when he does come into the pit stops just now. Just having a look here as well, because I mean there's action all throughout the field here just now. Tobias Bowie, as we said, ahead of Thomas Gilding and Jason Dilworth. And Jason Dilworth was leading the race for a significant part in the AM class there. Got jumped in the pit stops there. Now looks to be back up into to third place there. And I tell you what, I mean, Laurent Benzo is faster than Vince Peters right now. Granted, yes, he has got an extra pit stop to do, but it also looks like Nick Maidson is catching up on Vince Peters as well. That gap going out very, very slightly just now, but the last lap time said it all, where it was about a tenth faster for Nick Maidson. That changes now very slightly, but again, another lap in for Laurent Benzo. Do you think he knows you've got 2 pit stops to do?
I'm sure he's mentioned it. I did see in the driver chat a little bit earlier before the race, someone was asking that particular question, but it wasn't Laurent Benzo, and he's done this before, so he should be pretty confident in knowing he's got that 1 stop left to do. He's got 7 minutes, or just under 7 minutes, and the best part of whatever lap he's on to do it. He's running this as late as he possibly can. It's either going to play out fantastically well for him, or he could end up, if he loses all pace entirely, which it doesn't look like he has done just yet, he could end up off the podium entirely.
Yeah, could very well happen. Max Furtwängler has done his final pit stop of the race in the Pro-Am class. That will surely secure his leads there. He comes out 7.5 seconds ahead of Stuart Reynolds there. And we'll keep an eye on that one. There you go. That is a pit stop then for Tobias Bowie out of the AM class as well. So we're really seeing the crunch time now. We've got 6 minutes left to go in the race here, and the drivers now starting to make their final pit stops of the race here. It's still way too close to call, isn't it, David? There's so much resting on these final pit stops and the final outcomes of them.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see Tobias Bowie, he's made his final pit stop, so he's dropped down. Jason Dilworth, who we said, like I say, was on an alternate strategy to everyone else, has come out in the lead of that class at the moment, still with a few seconds left, or a few minutes left in the race, rather. There's definitely more than a few seconds left, fortunately for us. But Ryan Hamilton, one of the 2 people who can feasibly catch Jason Dilworth, is got. We can see now he's got Chris Chatterton for company going through the second corner. Igor Koss, he did have Chris Chatterton for company, but look at the sideways action coming out of the corner, too heavy on the loud pedal, and loses that chance of making the move. That's the number 38 car remind me, Budvin Kuster, who's going up the inside of Chris Danes. He's trying to make the move. It looks like that's actually for position, because of course Kuster had that horrible long pit stop, and I'm just keeping an eye on the gap between Benzo and Peters. It is closing, but very, very slowly. It's been the best part of a few tenths in the last couple of laps. So look, I'm very, very intrigued. It's Benzo pits.
Here we go then. Laurent Benzo into pit lane then from the lead of the race. That means that Vince Peters is going to start bringing that gap down and catching him up. But also catching up is Nick Maidson. So we've got 5 minutes left to go. This is going to be a dash for the cash for Laurent Benzo. It was an excellent couple of in-laps for him to pull things out. We've got Jason Dilworth back up, as you said, in the lead of the AM class ahead of Ryan Hamilton and Chris Chatterton. Pro-Am class is going to be Max Furtwängler and Igor Kossin.
He's going to do it.
It's Laurent Benzo. Here we go then. Is he? Surely not. He comes out of pit lane, and there is Vince Peters.
Wow.
That is a huge pit stop and a huge strategy play for Laurent Benzo. Not only is he ahead, but he's got a car behind him as well. That is incredible, David.
That's incredible stuff. I mean, he's a 5-second pit stop in the end. He played that fast and loose, and it has worked perfectly. Look at it. He's flashing those back markers to get them out of the way. He wants as many cars between himself as Vince Peters as he possibly can. We'll keep an eye on the gap. You can see Steve Martin in the Pro-Am class leading their class at the moment, comes into pit lane. That's going to re-inherit Max Furtwängler into the lead of the Pro-Am class. But keep an eye on on those intervals. It's 3.3 seconds at the moment. Will that continue to be the same? I mean, that is fantastic stuff from Laurent Benzo. He played that perfectly. We were saying earlier, weren't we? He was 8 seconds ahead, and we thought surely he's got this in the bag. He's somehow gone to hell and back, and somehow managed to be back in the lead of this race with just over 3 minutes left. Incredible stuff.
absolute strategy there, David. Great to see, and I'm really, really enthralled to see how these final 3 and a bit minutes pan out. Surely it's got to be done and dusted, but again, we have to keep our eyes on the prize right now, just as Laurent Benzo has to do here, because he's got Vince Peters 3.5 seconds behind him. Nick Maidson in that third position as well, about 5 seconds off of the leader right now. Pro-Am still Max Furtwängler, that gap now up to 6.2 seconds, but Igor Kos is having a bit of a difficult time because he has got Steve Martin right behind him, and that is bringing Stuart Reynolds up to the battle as well. Jason Dilworth in the AMP battle, as we see Laurent Benzo getting past that lap car, making no issue of it at all. And I believe that was the 74 that he just got past there. Either way, back to the AMP battle then. Jason Dilworth ahead of Ryan Hamilton and Chris Chariton for 1, 2 and 3. This is Steve Martin hunting down in that Pro-Am battle. This is for the Pro-Am second place against Igor Kos right now. Max Furtwängler, though, almost going to be taking the scalp of a pro car just now, just behind Daniel Kell. So Max, again, we spoke briefly earlier on about Max, David. A brilliant drive, a very, very concentrated drive, and he really just had himself to think about today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, he didn't have the best of starts in round 1. Of course, he retired fairly early on in the race at the Hockenheim Ring a few weeks ago, but he's done really well since. He's showing he's got pace. He got the win, of course, in the first round at Sebring. He came, I think it was 4th or 5th in the second race at Sebring as well. So he's done a fantastic job, and he's continuing to outline his class title credentials as well. I mean, 6 seconds after this amount of time is really quite impressive, considering the difference in strategies you've seen as well. So, yeah, just coming past one of the back markers, I think you're right. I think that is Dan Kell just getting out of the way. Not been the finest race for him, but really, really good stuff from Max, and really outlining his chances for a title push this season.
Certainly has. And let's take a minute to appreciate the cars going round then for the I would imagine is going to be the second to last lap here. We're going to get the white flag, I would imagine, very, very shortly here for Laurent Benzo, who is halfway round the circuit already. And yeah, what can you say? It's been an amazing, amazing race. Maybe a little bit more stretched out, David, than what we've had through the first 2 rounds, but it's been a classic race nonetheless. A lot to talk about, a lot to take away from tonight as Thomas Gurlian spins it on the second to last lap. That is not what you want to do, and I know that's a replay, but that is not going to hide any of the whoopsie moments as we see Eric Benson in the 51 here. It's a replay, so we know it's all going to go horribly wrong. Too much on the brake bias in the front. Car locks up, gets it going. That's great awareness to just let the car roll off and get the car going again. But the checkered flag is out, so we are going to be finished very, very shortly. And in fact, there we go, Laurent Benzo across the line to take the win from Vince Peters by 3.1 seconds. Nick Maidson in third position, Bastian Mattler in fourth, Thomas Gurlian in fifth, Dan Kell in 6th. It's then in the Pro-Am class, Max Furtwängler is going to come across the line to take the win for the Pro-Am class, just coming out the final couple of corners just now. A brilliant drive for the Pro-Am class driver there. And then it's going to be Jason Dilworth who will take the win, because Ryan Hamilton, Chris Chariton already a lap down, so he has the win in the bag right now. But what a race that has been. So as we said, that's Steve Martin trying to fight it out for Igor Kos here. Wow. Well, I wasn't expecting that. So we've been devoid of action for the past 10 minutes, and it's all kicking off right now. We've got a 3-way finish. Surely it's not going to go that way. It does. Steve Martin takes second place. Igor Kos very, very lucky to hold on to third in that Pro-Am battle there. Stuart Reynolds almost making it 3 wide for the finish there.
Wow, I mean, what a finish that was. Like you say, you're just wondering, like you say, yeah, last 10 minutes, it was one of them, wasn't it? Strategy started to play, and there was some gaps forming as we saw there. But I mean, look at that, a 1/10 of a second between Steve Martin and Igor Kos across the line. I don't think Stuart Reynolds was a second, 1.2 seconds adrift of that, unless he got some sort of slowdown over the line, because it looked a hell of a lot closer than that. As you see Jason Dilworth there coming across the line, to win in the AM class as well. Fantastic work from him on that alternate strategy. But as you said, look, it was one of them. On occasion, it did kind of slow down a little bit. Where, like I said, there's some bigger gaps. But I think the beauty in the race this evening was, whilst we weren't necessarily blessed with as much action as we had, we still got loads. Let's not forget that at any point. But it was really a case of it was almost a race of 4D chess. Some of the strategy pulls from some of these guys were really, really impressive.
4D chess part 2 then. Round 3, Red Bull Ring looks like this. For the AM class, Jason Dilworth taking the win from Ryan Hamilton. It's a 1-2 for Nomad Sim Racing. Remember, it was a 1-2-3 earlier on for Eclipse Racing Team. It's not to be because obviously we saw that getting outdone by Jason Dilworth and Ryan Hamilton. Chris Chatterton in 3rd position, 4th place for John Williams, Daniel Gilding in 5th, Thomas Grain finishes 6th place, Eric Benson in 7th. You've then got in 8th place is Tobias Bowie, 9th place is Ross Dunstan, Thomas Warren Jr. in 10th, Levi Johnson in 11th place, Matthew Heatrick in 12th, and Dean Thames finishes out for Eclipse Racing Team in 13th position. Moving on to Pro-Am, Max Furtwängler for Effect Esports takes round 3 commandingly by 5 seconds from Steve Martin and Igor Kos, pipped at the line, who had a moment on that final turn there. So Steve Martin takes 2nd for Benzo Racing and Igor Kos in 3rd place for FTR Esports. Stuart Reynolds in 4th, Cody Pride in 5th, Chris Danes in 6th position, James Fierro in 7th place there, Harry Wills in 8th, Sveining Mattsson in 9th, and rounding out your top 10 in Pro-Am, Alvin Kjellberg. And then moving on to the pros, it was a huge win tonight for Laurent Benzo in round 3, breaking that winning streak for Vince Peters here at the Red Bull Ring. Vince having to settle for 2nd place tonight for Volante Racing. Nick Madsen for Mag Performance SRT in 3rd position. Bastien Matler in 4th. Thomas Gildlian in 5th. Dan Kell in 6th. Francois Aldrini could have had a podium today, but down into 7th position. Benjamin Kuster in 8th. Benjamin Blanche in 9th. Johan Roiver, after starting on pole position, goes out with Benjamin Blanche and Arius Iomantis 49 laps ago. Wow, what a race we've had. Just before we start doing some interviews, David, some thoughts on that?
Well, like you say, I think it was strategy was the one that reigned king, wasn't it? We saw plenty of on-track action, as we have done in every round so far this season, and I doubt that any of the next 7 rounds are going to be any different anyway. But I mean, realistically, the man you can see on screen, Laurent Benzo, he went from being the star of the show to potentially being the pantomime villain to being the star again at the end, didn't he? I mean, look, he lost 8 seconds in that first phase of pit stops, which seems almost unheard of. And then somehow managed to go. I mean, well, you can see why now, can't you? That he lost all that time because he went so deep into that second stint and played it to a T. That 5-second pit stop coming out of there, got the job done, and yeah, really did a fantastic job. And credit to the other winners. I know Jason's in the. We'll hopefully get a chance to chat to him in a minute, and Max Furtwängler taking the win as well. But those 3 of them really all seem to play their strategies really, really well tonight.
Well, David, since I've done a lot of the talking tonight, what we're going to do is I'm going to let you have a chat with our AM winner, Jason Dilworth.
Yeah, good evening, Jason. Congratulations on the win. How was that from your perspective?
Thanks very much, guys. It was boring, to be honest. And I don't mean that from an egotistical way. I mean, I pitted really early because I felt like I was just losing my head a little bit in some early traffic with Chadderton. And Benson was behind me, so I pitted really early knowing that there was a really short stop. And then I was just hot lapping for the rest of it, really, which was nice, but there was no battling. I didn't do anything on track, and literally didn't know where I was until everyone had pitted right at the end.
Do you have an idea at any point that you were going to be taking home the victory tonight, or were you, like you say, literally, what was it, about 5-10 minutes in going, oh, I'm leading the race, I'm leading the class, that'll do. We'll take that and go. We'll take that and run. Yeah,
I mean, it was definitely something I wanted from the beginning, but yeah, got really held up, and there was some. I didn't feel like when I did the pit, there was no pace all of a sudden. So looking at the gap ahead of me, and I wasn't gaining, so it was like this was the wrong decision. And then obviously everyone's taking different levels of fuel over those 2 pit stops because there was such a little bit more than one pit stop that we needed to do. So yeah, no idea really. And well, I thought I was in the lead after most of the people did their second stop, and then I sort of scrolled up the relative and see Bowie hadn't pitted yet, and I was like, has he already pitted twice? Is he 15 seconds ahead? Has he pulled an absolute blinder? But no, luckily for me, he hadn't. But yeah, it was really good fun, even if it was a bit lonely.
And of course, 1-2 for yourself and Ryan in the Nomad Sim Racing team. Something to look forward to. Continue to make a nice little run at the team standings potentially.
Hopefully, yeah. Ryan is known to the leagues, and this is my first time with anything with these guys. Ryan's good at closing out these championships. I'm less consistent, so as long as I can stay somewhere near where he is, then we might have a good run at it.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like your endurance races is definitely your thing. Of course, really decent result at the Hockenheimring a couple of weeks ago. Very, very good result now, and hopefully we'll see you again in the next round at Watkins Glen next week, and hopefully for another good showing.
We absolutely will. Thanks a lot, and thanks for everything you guys do.
Congratulations again, Jason. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
So there we go then, David. Another race week done and dusted here at the Red Bull Ring. Again, maybe a little bit of a more calmer affair this week, but championship-wise, huge outcome there. Laurent Benzo getting some great points and just denying Vince Peters that unbeaten run. But next week we move off to the state of New York for Watkins Glen, and a bit of a surprise to the calendar.
Yeah, surprise entry, isn't it? Of course, we were meant to be going to Zandvoort, for those of you who weren't already aware. And yeah, look, they're two very fairly contrasting tracks in terms of the nature, aren't they? But Zandvoort, of course, we know, very tight, twisty, technical circuit. Watkins Glen's got those technical points, but it is one of those where you're going to be using a lot of that slipstream, especially down that back straight. So really interested to see how they get on. Similar in some ways to the Red Bull Ring we're at this evening, but two more sprint races. We know how much action they can prove, and yeah, really looking forward to a lot more of that in the races next week.
Well, a huge thank you to the organisers, World Series Leagues, for setting us up tonight, worldseriesleagues.co.uk. Huge thank you to our commercial partners at Race Anywhere Sim3D and Go for the Gap. This has been the Race Anywhere Porsche Cup EU Round 3 at Red Bull Ring. A huge thank you to Mike Yao from SimSport International for the broadcast as always, and a huge thank you to the main man himself in the commentary box alongside myself, Dave Christie. It has been none other than David Dressel. David, have a fantastic week, my friends. Looking forward to seeing you back next week at Watkins Glen. And to all you lovely people out there at home, stay safe, enjoy your week, whatever you're getting up to, and we'll see you at the same time next week.